Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our final lecture for the semester. I hope you learned a lot this semester as we went through the different topics. And for this week, with 13, we will end with topic 10, which is future trends in PNG's foreign policy. So there's a lot of things happening. The world is changing at a very rapid pace, seeing the rise of powers like China, and they're changing the dynamics of the international system. And this also impacted the foreign policies of small developing states like PNG. So we are now reading in the media and seeing how things are playing out, and with the defense treaty and where PNG stands, and are we going to align with our traditional powers, or stand in the middle, be neutral, or so there's a lot of confusion, a lot of talk going on. So we'll once again give this opportunity to our national lecturer, who's been very good throughout the semester. Good is an understatement. It's been excellent with sharing his knowledge and helping us to understand the public service, the bureaucracy, APEC itself, and the different things about international relations that we as students should understand before we go out into the real world and join the workforce and contribute towards nation building with the end game, that's the main goal. So without further delay, we hand over the virtual microphone to Mr. Ako to go through our last lecture for this semester. And I guess all you earphones are excited, huh? It's our last lecture. We start in your 2 more weeks, and you are excited to exit the program and invite to Mr. Ako and myself and to start the new life. So Mr. Ako, please go ahead.
Okay, I'll share now. Ah, hang on it. All right. Morning to Olgeta. That's our final topic for this lecture series update. Future trends in PNG's foreign policy. Okay, so we'll go straight ahead. So after 50 years of independence, I mean, we just celebrated our 50th independence anniversary last week, and I guess the onus is now on us to plan the next 50 years. What's PNG going to be like in the next 50 years? And that all starts around this time. So these are the challenges and ignorances by bureaucracy which we have to overcome to secure international markets for our lifeline. And our lifeline, I think, remains on our commodities and natural resources. So, which brings us to the question, why have we not commenced going heavy on negotiating free trade agreements with our bilateral partners or trading partners, but have instead continued to play lip service to colonial trading predicaments? You know, these challenges have been compounded by the advent of COVID-19, 4 or 5 years ago. And it needs now to play in a new situation, in a new setting, which was called the new normal. So as we await the launching of our new foreign policy white paper and the advent of this new normal, which is now into its 5th year, now means that PNG, we are inadequately prepared to map drivable course to purposely advance any economic development undertaking we may wish to pursue under the current circumstances. Okay, so you look at then I'm trying to point our focus back to Business Council of Papua New Guinea's G2B collaboration efforts, and its private government process. And the government's cabinet endorsed PNG foreign policy on APEC, which now, up to this state, now still remain the only available options at this point in time to enhance existing opportunities to drive the PNG economic development agenda forward. Now, possible trends in foreign policy formulation in Papua New Guinea. Now, the possible emerging trends in PNG foreign policy formulation may very well be driven by, my own opinion, is very well can be driven by a G2B collaboration efforts, which are undertaken under the Business Council's private government connect process. Now, this could be done in partnership with the PNG foreign policy in APEC, and that is driven by the roadmap to domesticate the outcomes of the APEC 2018 leaders' outcome, as well as the upcoming new foreign policy white paper, which I am not sure would have taken into account all these regional undertakings. Okay, so after our 10 weeks of collaborations, discussions, and sharing of ideas on this very critical issue, I am convinced that the new foreign policy white paper will drive our ideas forward. The picture, I've decided to put this picture to show the final 30 minutes before then Prime Minister O'Neill reconvened the APEC Leaders Summit for the leaders to endorse the declaration, the APEC 2018 Leaders Declaration. Now here we can see that Prime Minister O'Neill is telling Prime Minister Morrison and Prime Minister Ardern why paragraphs 9, 16, and 17 should not be omitted from the declaration. Unfortunately, consensus couldn't be reached, so the Eracon statement was the result of it. And that has remained the APEC leaders' reference point from 2018 up to 2019 and on to 2020 until the Kuala Lumpur Declaration was cautiously reached. Okay, so this picture also tells the fact that the Prime Minister on the left of the screen is telling the Prime Minister in the middle to work on a consensus, while the Prime Minister on the right is telling the two male Prime Ministers that no, this is Papua New Guinea's host. So we should all work towards endorsing what Papua New Guinea put for everyone. Unfortunately, that was not to be the case. So the new normal, that's the engine of growth. Now, the new normal has been in place ever since COVID-19 came out. And COVID-19, why I am talking about it at this point in time, 5 years later, is because COVID-19 changed the landscape of international relations. And the new normal became the engine to mitigate the environment we were in, and the private sector came to the fore as the major player in international relations. Okay. Prime Minister Marape, in one of his speeches on Post-Korea of the 21st of this month, declared 2025 as the year of reset. Okay. Again, in the PNG Housebook report by Emmanuel Maipe of 22nd September of this year, 22nd of this month, reaffirmed the government's focus on growing the PNG's economy to over 100 billion in the years to come, based on the simple rationale that a bigger economy provides the resources to fund education, healthcare, infrastructure, welfare, and national development. In looking ahead, the Prime Minister outlined his ambitious growth targets that by 2030 we should have a 200 billion kina economy. By 2035, this would increase to 300, and by 2045 this should reach 500 billion kina economy. And this growth would come from all sectors, including forestry, agriculture, fisheries, mining, petroleum, and critically through local content, SMEs, MSMEs, and a wide participation of all Papua New Guineans in business. Now, when we look at COVID-19, when we look back at COVID-19, it was one of the most challenging health and economic crises of our time, prompting all economies around the world to commit to safeguarding the lives of their people, including the economic well-being and it transformed the way business uh, is now done today, carried out today, and requires structural reform more than ever to improve the way of doing business and to unleash economic prosperity for all economies. I mean, for us Papua New Guineans as well. And this includes encouraging the use of digital technology in all aspects of doing business and in promoting human resource development. When we look back, we can see that uh, uh, digital technology and HR have worked hand in hand going forward, right up to today. Now, possible scenarios that can harness the private sector collaboration in foreign policy making. We've discussed this in one of our earlier lectures, but uh, we can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pointers. And these pointers will be based on the scenarios upon which our international relations can be driven. For instance, the movement of essential goods and services, as well as the essential movement of people in a safe manner, and identifying and resolving unnecessary barriers to limit the resilience of our domestic supply chain is now very critical more than ever after COVID-19. And what has this taught us today? When we look at education, including science, technology, and innovation, are now very crucial to Papua New Guinea's post-COVID 2019 recovery measures. And the current STEM advances by Dr. Clement Waine and his team can be seen as influenced by the onset of post-COVID 2019 measures. PNG has now the opportunity to continue talks with its regional, multilateral, and bilateral partners to cooperate constructively on post-COVID-19 measures, including in research and development, products in manufacturing, distribution of medical products and services, and their supply chains, therapeutic and vaccines, and other medical countermeasures that are vital to safeguarding our people's health and well-being. You look at the importance of continuing the development and contribution of digital technologies in safeguarding the health and well-being of the people from future health threats, and improving the resilience, scalability, and sustainability of our health system is now of paramount importance. Now, in this decade leading up to 2030, it is now very critical for public-private partnerships and engagements to be harnessed to promote and advance the important sectors that will be pivotal in advancing this undertaking. For instance, market access for a non-extractive industry, particularly in agriculture, fisheries, forestry, and other commodities, is now paramount. And to effect this, current bilateral arrangements will now have to be reviewed and new ones with new bilateral partners established through formal free trade agreements, purposely to secure and formalize markets for our farmers. This is not happening at the moment. You look at quality infrastructure, which is now critically important to complement our connectivity endeavors. Sustainable and inclusive economic development plans must now be rolled out, while ongoing structural reform initiatives must now be pursued to the end to strengthen and support economic development agenda through the MTDP4. And this will then pave the way for the government's economic corridor concept to be implemented in full throughout the country. PNG continues to experience relative low penetration rates at ITC at the moment, although we've gone in leaps and bounds since 2018, but we are still considered, our ITC costs are still considered high around the world. Now, this is compounded by our challenging terrain and slowly growing and spreading internet coverage to the 85% rural-based population. Now, further adjustments in the pricing of internet could facilitate greater connectivity to small businesses, thereby stimulating further economic growth. In addition to access to safe, reliable, and sustainable energy, initiatives will also enable greater access to communication technology, leading to economic development. Now, the continuing structural reform exercise in the ICT sector can also contribute to addressing some of the ongoing challenges faced by the rural communities in terms of energy distribution and consumption, accessibility to communication and information services, which will in turn address issues relating to inequality and opportunities, thereby boosting productivity. Now, the Department of ICT in the forefront of this, and Secretary Matainao is really pushing the boundaries in ensuring that IT in government and public service is realized properly. And promoting innovation and digitalization in the economy will also enable all businesses to carry out their activities and empower inclusive economic participation and therefore attract foreign direct investment. So having a vital anchor as baseline for a new foreign policy white paper. So what is the most significant international event hosted by PNG recently that can be used to drive Papua New Guinea's foreign policy initiative forward at this point in time? Huh? By then, an immediate answer to the first question was APEC PNG 2018. And the ensuing answers would be yes, with the chair's Eracon statement as putting PNG on the world map. Now, more recently, the answer to the first question would be PNG's 50th independence anniversary celebrations. The following answers to the following questions would actually depend very much on the bilateral meetings that the Prime Minister held with his counterparts and visiting dignitaries and their outcomes in the last week. Now, while both these events put PNG on the world map, what are we as foreign policy practitioners and analysts doing to sustain this status? Are we following through with the outcomes of the bilateral meetings? I mean, for instance, if one of the visiting nation leaders had offered support to PNG's membership to ASEAN, then what are we doing about advancing our ambitions in this direction? Have we restructured our domestic systems accordingly to warrant convincing the ASEAN membership that we are indeed genuine in our ambitions? No, those are some of the questions we should ask ourselves when we're looking at a pivotal initiative that can drive our foreign policy agenda forward. Now, the CAPI is the Committee on APEC Policy Issues. This was a huge interagency committee who came together for a common national cause. And I go back to this anchor, a common national cause. Okay. Now, the significance of this picture is not about the persons in it. It is actually about what's behind them. Now, when you look closely at this picture, you will notice that behind these people are the original hard data scribblings done by the copy that made up the APEC 2018 theme and policy priorities, and subsequently the APEC leaders chair's Eracon statement. These were pasted around the four walls of the small hideout at Oakley House on the first week of December 2017 as a reminder to everyone about what was at stake. These papers remained so until after that fateful special senior official meeting in Singapore on the 7th December 2019, when they were ceremoniously taken down and claimed by some patriots for safekeeping. I hope they are safely stored away at the National Museum. So, APEC PNG 2018. The Cabinet in its decision 422-2018 directed all sectoral ministers to support the APEC 2018 agenda. Okay. Now, the PNG's outcome document on its successful hosting of the APEC 2018 Leaders Summit in November 2018 is portrayed in the 2018 Eracon statement. Now, the Eracon statement emanated from the APEC 2018 theme of harnessing inclusive opportunities, embracing the digital future. And its three policy priorities of policy priority number one was improving connectivity, deepening regional economic integration, followed by number two, policy priority number two on promoting inclusive and sustainable growth. And the final policy priority was strengthening economic growth through structural reform. Now, the theme and policy priorities are based on APEC's overarching objectives on the achievement of the BOGO goals on free and open trade and investment facilitation, as well as the APEC Connectivity Blueprint 2015-2025, where leaders committed to strengthen physical, institutional, and people-to-people connectivity by taking agreed actions and meeting agreed targets by 2025 for a seamless and comprehensively connected and integrated Asia-Pacific region. The PNG APEC Secretariat, as the mandated division within the Department of Prime Minister and NEC, in taking heed of the NEC decision number 422/2018, convened a copy workshop in April 2019 to brainstorm ideas and thoughts on how to effect these instructions. or carry out these instructions. So following this workshop and the ensuing series of one-on-one consultations with stakeholder agencies and departments, a draft roadmap was completed and circulated in May 2019 for inputs and comments before it was finalized for Cabinet's further consideration and endorsements. So we mentioned the theme and then the policy priorities. You will note that after 2018, leaders also took into account the APEC BOGO goals, which was started in 1993 and was coming to an end in 2020. You can go to the link there and check out the ERACON statement. But as part of the overall undertaking in the ERACON statement, leaders provided the following instructions on the BOGO goals and the World Trade Organization, WTO, for member economies to pursue in order to fulfill their respective commitments in the APEC process, in line with the 3 policy priorities which we mentioned earlier on. Okay? So these are the leaders' instructions under the policy priorities we came up with earlier on in the 2018 host year. So under policy priority number 1, on deepening REI and improving connectivity, leaders instructed officials to progress the APEC BOGO goals by making maximum progress under the APEC individual action plans by the deadline of 2020, advancing trade in a free, fair, and open manner in a way that will support non-discriminatory and mutually advantageous trade and investment framework, and call for urgent removal of market distorting subsidies and other types of support by government and related entities. Now, on deepening REI and the free trade area of the Asia Pacific, leaders instructed economies to progress on issues identified by the economies in order to enhance APEC economies' ability to participate in high-quality, comprehensive FTAs in the future. You see, these instructions were there for an FTAs, for APEC economies, member economies to talk about and negotiate FTAs among themselves, and for officials to report by 2020. Economies were instructed to commit to further actions to increase APEC's competitiveness in the services sector by 2025 by intensifying efforts to address barriers and facilitate services trade that will better enable our businesses to compete in trade in services market. And on improving connectivity, leaders instructed officials to implement the APEC connectivity blueprint to build a seamless and comprehensive connected and integrated Asia Pacific by 2025, to commit to pursuing all ongoing commitments in progressing work on connectivity, including sub-regionally, remote area connectivity and rural urban development, and also to identify future areas of cooperation, commit to bring member economies and people closer together through policy and regulatory cooperation and coherence, trade facilitation, and people-to-people exchanges, and to develop better regional networks in ICT infrastructure. So you look at these 2 bottom parts. This is one of the questions we were discussing a couple of days ago on cultural connectivity. This is also part of APEC's leaders' instructions, and also on developing network and ICT infrastructure. Now, under policy priority number 2 on promoting sustainable and inclusive growth, leaders instructed officials to promote and sustainable inclusive growth. And it also included the implementation of the APEC action agenda on advancing economic, financial, and social inclusion, and also continuing the implementation, development, and implementation of the initiatives that will support sustainable and inclusive growth. These are part of APEC's ongoing activities. Now, whether our bureaucracy implemented that through the roadmap is something which we will have to find out going forward. Now, under policy priority number 3, it talked about instructions. The leaders instructed under these collective instructions all APEC member economies to implement these initiatives as part of their respective domestic economic development measures and initiatives. So based on these anchors, the PNG foreign policy on APEC was formulated towards the end of 2019. We will note that this plan wasn't just plucked out of the skies after 2018. We already had nearly 5 years, 2013 to 2017, to workshop it, socialize it with our APEC colleagues around the region, And 78 bilateral meetings at some level, where senior officer level, were held. And I'm not counting the informal conversations outside of this space. So the APEC 2018 Chess Eracon statement was a summary PNG required to plan its bigger game plan of the century, and in other words, its new foreign policy white paper. Now, PNG's foreign policy on APEC, in addition to the cabinet decision number 36/2020, which endorsed it, it also endorsed the former Committee on APEC Policy Issues to be renamed the Committee on APEC Policy Implementation, because now it's time to implement now, and to be the apparatus to implement the roadmap. Now the roadmap. The roadmap was developed to drive the APEC foreign policy on APEC, the PNG's foreign policy on APEC, and it was to be implemented and managed through a project management process, purposely to achieve the strategic objectives of the PNG foreign policy on APEC 2030, and to ensure tangible outcomes to its various activities are scheduled between then and 2030. And this would be assimilated into what they call OPM. OPM is a project management language for organizational project management framework. So this would be assimilated into an OPM framework, which would have a portfolio, and below the portfolio would be programs, and then below the programs would be projects, and all taking into account the inputs and outputs of the sectors in the MTDP4. Okay. So this is how an OPM framework would actually look like. You have the portfolio at the top, and then you have the programs. So in this case, we have 4 programs, and under those four programs, we would have projects under each program. So the projects to achieve the outcomes of those programs. So these programs would then have workable projects to achieve with achievable deadlines, all scoped within the government's annual budgetary configuration within its departments. So from these programs or projects made up from the inputs and outputs of the sectoral MTDP, by then it was the sectoral MTDP4, MTDP3, yeah. But after that, it can be now, we can even say that this can be effected through the MTDP4 also. Undertakings to be formulated. So then we, based on this, we're looking at the PNG development strategies. So the roadmap successful implementation hinged on the domestic commitments of these development priorities and the accompanying policy drivers and objectives. For instance, the National Trade Policy 2017 and its trade facilitation efforts to implement the WTO's trade facilitation agenda and reduce cost in business transactions was to be carried out by streamlining trade procedures to reduce risk and transaction costs, enhancing efficiency, transparency, and predictability of international trade as measured in time and money, and appropriate capacity building, training, and awareness for businesses involved in trade. When we look at the PNG DSP 2010-2030 undertaking, it was to be done through creating wealth, meaning trade, human resource development, and security and international relations, which means focusing on foreign policy and foreign aid. Now, the MTDP3 2018-2022 and its undertaking to secure the future through inclusive and sustainable economic growth was done through the following sectors. You have the economic, social, infrastructure, law and order, governance and administration, and cross-cutting sector. Now, under the economic sector, this would be carried out on the agriculture to be responsive to international and domestic markets, in fisheries to maximize economic returns for wealth creation, poverty alleviation, and food security. And the forestry is to build a forest sector that is sustainable and highly profitable. Tourism is to build tourist numbers in PNG every 5 years. Now, under manufacturing was to develop higher value chains and technologies, and the SMEs to enable MSMEs to be the growth driver, which we had advocating for at the moment. And the land development was to have a well-administered land market for development. And the trade and investment was to increase export and reduce imports to maximize economic growth. And the finance inclusion was to have a quality financial services. And the petroleum was to maximize socio-economic and environmental benefits. And under mining was to manage a world-class mineral extractive industry. Now, under the social sector is made up of health, primary and secondary schooling, higher and tertiary education, TVET, research, science, technology, and innovation, and sports. So under health, it was the MTDP 3 was to be implemented by having quality basic primary health. Under primary and secondary education, we were to provide universal quality education. And the higher and tertiary education was to have a specialized, skilled, and knowledgeable human resource capacity to grow the economy. And the TVET was to have technical skills for all school leavers. And under research, science, technology, and innovation, PNG to develop knowledgeable and innovative systems to address our socio-economic welfare. And under sports was to promote behavioral change, health, lifestyle, healthy lifestyle, and social benefit. Under infrastructure sector, it covered the transport, ICT, energy, affordable housing, water sanitation. So under transport, PNG was to ensure seamless flow of goods and services, and ICT was to reach all parts of the country by a certain time, and energy development was to improve access to and for more households, and to contribute affordable housing, which would contribute to development. And under water, sanitation, and hygiene was to ensure access to hygiene facilities for all people. Now, law and order sector covered the strengthening and enforcing of the rule of law for secure growth, and also to have a vibrant defense force for security needs. Governance and administration covered having a governance and public sector management to attain higher standards, quality national statistics services for national development, to advance national interest globally through a foreign policy. Note that it was also listed in the MTDP 3, and the foreign policy was to advance national interest globally. And the immigration was to have the best systems and uphold safety measures against illegal immigration. And under development cooperation, to ensure maximum contribution to development agenda. Now, the cross-cutting sector covers population, youth, gender, HIV/AIDS, vulnerable disadvantaged groups, environment, climate change, and natural disaster management. Under climate change, it talked about mitigating climate change and greenhouse gas emissions impact and risk. And national disaster management talked about mitigating increasing the resilience to disaster. So this was a summary. This is a summary of the MPDP 3 2018-2022 and its undertakings. And you can see the genesis of this, how this MTDP 3 was converted into the MTDP 4 2023-2027. And you can look at the FPAs and the DIPs in it. So this is the how I thought synergizing the bureaucracy to the national development agenda should look like. You have the PNG DSP 2030, you have the ERACON Statement 2018, then you have the Trade Policy 2017, all in one cup or bowl, and it should work towards implementing the roadmap. Okay, and capacity building, continuous in-house training within the departments, having a project management mindset in the organizations which are timeline oriented, complemented by regular international interactions, would support the development and the implementation of the roadmap. Now, to make sure any policy agenda is implemented successfully, there must be the political will to make it happen. So a foreign policy is indeed a country's game plan to drive its national interests abroad. It has been listed in the MTDP 3 and it is listed also in the MTDP 4. Now, how effective this game plan is will depend on the strategies an economy comes up with. And I believe that a project management approach and its processes should be engaged to put these activities into action domestically to make the whole process work. So I'll conclude there, and I thank you all for supporting this engagement this last 10 weeks. I think we have time for questions, Mr. Aguirre. I'll stop sharing and revert back, hand over the mic back to you, virtual mic back to you.
So thank you, Mr. Ako, for sharing with us your knowledge and your perspective on the way forward, our future trends in foreign policy and your APEC experience and integrated them into your presentation today. So I open the floor for questions, comments. We start off with Jonathan, and then Jonathan Kunai, and then we go to Crystal, Sweden, and Michael. So
Uh, Comrade. Uh, Once again, good morning, Mr. Tigger and Mr. Lau. I have a couple of comments, total of four comments and two questions. So I'll start off with my comments. So my first comment is on topic 8, which is connect PNG. It was a point in which Mr. Lau raised, in which he mentioned that despite like several foreign policies review from 2003 to 2010, there's been little progress made because after the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, they lack the capacity to implement these changes, so which resulted they lack to the capacity to implement changes in weak systems, limited skills and staff, and poor process like leads to the inconsistent decision like the sudden shift from one China policy to organize Taiwan without like proper approval, like which tarnishes like PNG's credibility issue. With that, like this highlights key issue in our foreign policy, yeah, which strong, yeah, which highlights a key issue because without a strong system for like continuity, such as implementation units and like regular reviews, even the best foreign policies like the risk remaining just words and not real action. So all in all, like these mentions that like we have to like have like implementations and like there to be regular reviews in, yeah, in our policies. So that's on PNG, and moving on to topic 9, I have a comment on a total of two comments, which is also on which Mr. Laos, Mr. Kos, Mr. Lau, she mentioned that the PNG, the Foreign Affairs Department has faced like several budget cuts in 2017, like which is weaken its ability to support foreign missions and regional initiative throughout the years. So with that, my take on that is that regional leadership, like, it takes more than presence where it requires strategic planning, uh, re- reliable funding, and skill diplomacy. So, yeah, skill diplomacy, and without like these things and institutional reforms, PNG is in a it could be PNG could be in a tough position, in a risk being outpaced by more organized actors like PG, which is one of the countries similar to us, but is giving a competition to PNG now. And in some way or other, we are more similar. But PG is becoming a competitor to us, and it's like out. What can I say? It's outperforming PNG in uh, a lot of things, despite its advantages. And I'm going to my third comment, which also on topic nine, and topic nine, in which the in which it was emphasized that while in 2017, like the reviews set out like six strategic um, um, objectives, PNG will struggle to translate plans into actions because of weak administrative systems and aging foreign service policy staff as and lack of follow-up mechanisms, which is clearly as mentioned by Matilda Arvicheda, which was senior last year, and which she mentioned in a presentation. Well, she went and did part-time with foreign in the foreign service department, in which she mentioned that a lot of the workers there are old and they aren't many young. The follow-up mechanisms and stuff there, like most of the documents they are not online, but they are not outdated, but they are in still in the filing system, and most of them we still in the using the old system. A lot of I wouldn't say old people that to be rude, but a lot of the workers there are old. So, so my take on comment is that is that using like mm, monitoring and the evaluation mechanisms in the new white paper is vital to close the gap in PNG's foreign policy and regular like performance uh, audits and measurable indicators and public progress reporting would create a sort of like accountability or continuity in preventing like foreign policy goals from fading once political priorities shift. And my fourth comment is to today's this presentation on which Mr. Lau mentioned that in COVID-19, which is true, like before like COVID-19 sickness came, like there wasn't a lot of emphasis focus given on our mm, mm, ICT sectors as mm, ICT sectors, whereas not today after the pandemic, like as PNG, like now we tend to give more focus on this, and with this focus on ICT now, like there's a lot of issues like they're coming up with ICT and like the use of social media and stuff like this. Now we can see like yeah, like you see like all things like there good side to it and bad side. And now like in PNG, like the use of social media now digitally, like it is gone out of hand, and like, there's a lot of content out there being published which is good for like country as PNG. And I think it's like one thing that like government should look into it. And from my perspective and stuff, I think they should like ban like stuff such as TikTok, like which is it's not good. Like, it's a good tool to create awareness, but on the other hand, like us, like as PNG, like we are not using this thing in a responsible way, like as citizens, like we are not using it in a proper way. So I think they should like put like restrictions or like ban TikTok in PNG, and that's my take on this topic on digital usage in the country. Now to my two questions. The first question now, this is to Mr. Akoa. I have one question on topic 8. So you mentioned that like the conscience, Mr. Akoa, you mentioned the conscience about the weak strategy, capacity, and the lack of follow-up through on past foreign policy reviews. Like what concentrate like mechanisms can be introduced with that. Sorry, you mentioned that the concern about weak strategic capacity and the lack of follow-up through on past foreign policy reviews. So with that, like what concentrate mechanisms can be introduced within the Department of like Foreign Affairs, like can be introduced to ensure that foreign policy strategies are not only like well designed, in line, but are also consistent and consistently implemented and monitored over time. And so to my second question, uh, given the persistent gap between like foreign policy and implementation, as mentioned in or she mentioned or we discussed in our last on topic 9 in the in line to the 2017 review, how can the upcoming foreign policy white paper like integrate like clear mm, monitoring and evaluation system to ensure like strategic object actually achieved now like some of our strategic object of the nation like actually achieved in this upcoming the white paper, the foreign policy or the book treaty or now the upcoming our now foreign policy that is yet to be published. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay. When I mention about the lack of follow-up, I would rather, in my opinion, as a department, the leader has a plan, and that plan is in place. So we would go ahead and implement the plan while awaiting endorsement of cabinet. You can't just leave a plan then do nothing and just carry on as business as normal, but business as usual while waiting for endorsement to be done by people above you. To be proactive, I think that if you, as a team leader, implement the plan, go ahead and implement it based on the plan while awaiting endorsement. And then if the endorsement doesn't come, or if you are instructed to change it, then change another plan again. But you are seen as progressing, because when you implement a plan, it's progress. You are progressing an idea. When you are not implementing a plan because under the excuse semipla waiting endorsement come lo all boss past them. And then when you are sitting there doing business as usual, answering emails and just doing normal correspondences, every public servant must understand that you carry the hopes of those people who are not working. You carry, let me rephrase, every public servant must understand that you carry the hopes of the rest of the population. And if you are sitting there doing nothing, then the population suffers. That's how I view it. So if you have a plan, the plan I'm still start draft form, but then final draft I'm endorse now with him, final tick. Go ahead and implement it. Start working on it. Get your whole structure in place and say, this is how we move. Precedence has been set. You look at the 1980 Kumul force in Vanuatu. While cabinet was still, while parliament was still debating whether we should send the PNGDF to Vanuatu or not, the PNGDF was already there by a week. Under the plan of going celebrating, helping Vanuatu celebrate its independence. They were all there. They were on the ground already. So time Parliament gave the endorsement, they moved. If the Parliament had said no, then they would have come back. No harm done. So that I think should be the approach we should take with our plans, because those plans, you have spent maybe 2, 3, 4 years thinking about them, workshopping them, and coming up with the final draft. And everybody around us, have agreed that this is the draft we should play on, and then we move him. Suppose I'm wrong, Karim draft come back and fix him again. But suppose all boss took no, stop it right there, then you stop it. I say this out of all respect to the work processes of our current systems. I say this simply because international relations does not wait for anyone. As we speak, there are moves in place around the world. There are a couple of countries fighting to change their borders. There are a couple of countries going to war because of their foreign policies. As we are speaking, there's a debate on our national or on the Pukpuk Treaty, which is why I think that once you have a plan, go ahead and implement it. But while you implement it, keep your bosses in brief. Brief them and say this is happening. Okay. Now, your second question on the having monitoring and evaluation in the processes, which is why I'm advocating for foreign policy to be done through a project management process, because in project management you cannot leave out monitoring and evaluation. It goes hand in hand. You come to a project, you must monitor him. You must get many partner. Only through utilizing project management processes, monitoring and evaluation will come in automatically. You cannot omit M&E without a project. Some of the reasons why projects fail is not because of not because of there was no monitoring, but the project triangle of time, cost, and a schedule must be equal. If cost increase, then scope too must increase, time too must increase. You cannot increase the cost because some triangle go wrong now, which means the date you have here will not match the increase in cost. Na schedule too babagara. You see, which is the reason why they scope the project out properly, put a nearly confirmed figure to it, and once it gets endorsed, they go ahead and implement it, and then you monitor it every iteration along the way. Every activity you finish him, you monitor and go review him again, fix him, because activity 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will all add up to completing this project, which will cover the program. If you go back to the OPM idea I mentioned, so you have 5 activities that make up this one project, which leads into the successful implementation of this program, which covers the portfolio. And all this must be monitored along the way. There, you have midterm reviews. That's a big monitoring, or what people have approval gates. Approval gates where you work on play activity, check him past them. You work him right or wrong. Suppose him wrong, fix him again before you go to the next activity. So monitoring and evaluation is part and parcel of any project management activity. Like what we have is a project. For me, our foreign policy lectures is a project for me based on 10 weeks. So look at me break him up. I broke it up into my own OPM. So I have project 1, project 2. I have 10 projects underneath. And underneath 10 projects are the lectures and the Q&As. Those are the activities that go underneath. Those 10 projects, those 10 lecture sessions, those are my 10 projects. Now, under these 10 projects, I have programs which cover ideas into foreign policy, implementation idea, implementation assessments on foreign policy. These are my programs. Me at Wokim, just for my own thought. And the portfolio title is Foreign Policy in Papua New Guinea. So once we achieve all this, and I can go and think of, okay, me Wokim this lab, because our approval gates or monitoring gates are the Q&As. When we hold our Q&As, you put me on the stand by asking me that, which is the reason why between now and Thursday, I have to review these things properly and me ready. Meeting him side by me, strong him side by me, and I read him stop too. Because if you are doing your monitoring, because you will be monitoring and evaluating me during the Q&As, and I must have answers. And one of the projects, one of the activities that failed was a question given by last week on the activities of the objectives of the corporate plan law, foreign affairs, whether no, I couldn't answer that because I didn't know. I wasn't aware of those activities being done by test, yes, by then. So I said, sorry, me, I can't answer that. That is not right. You know, we shouldn't be saying I can't answer. I must always come up with an answer and a truthful answer. So you see, so that's the reason why I'm saying a project management effort is better to run a foreign policy engagement, because there are activities in place where you stop him this last stop. So, for instance, if our foreign policy had come up on enhancing our bilateral relations with Australia, and one of the projects was the treaty, the Puk Treaty, then what would have been the activities underneath now? What are the activities underneath now that we are going to ensure that the Puk Treaty is signed? So one of the activities will be the cabinet submission, reviewing the cabinet submission and going through it, which means what? Which means gathering the whole interagency again and saying, okay, where did our lawyers go wrong? And then fixing those gaps up. But I'm pretty sure that lawyers on both sides went through this, all the little aspects of this treaty that they said it can be signed. Okay, so you know that's how it is. So now when we look at the project management approach, between now and the time cabinet endorses it for signature, then all legal activities come inside it. And if that activities mean you call an interagency meeting made up of Department of Defense, the police, foreign affairs, and all that, and come up with the agenda to pick, you do it and work break. You know, you can't just let things out there to fall from the sky by happen. No, but it goes back to what I said earlier on the question of ASEAN. Let's say if one of the Asian economies came last week for celebration, it held a bilateral with PM and said, PM, we note you play like Apple ASEAN, so we will offer our support to it. There were no takers there. No takers would have picked it up. So right now, this week, and one of the deep notes with the flag openings of this Asian economy in the Torsam. On Tuesday last week, when both our leaders met, you mentioned that you would support us. Can we discuss now? Can our officers now meet look next steps? But time you go to next steps, you keep it kissing wasna go to one, because at the next steps, this other side is going to ask you. So have you set up your ASEAN Secretariat? Has your cabinet endorsed appointed ambassador to ASEAN in Indonesia? You must go with all these ideas. They're supposed to go nothing, no towards them, or to bumper support you, but have you done it? If we say no, then they'll kick the ball back into our court. And these people will go back and tell the other ASEAN members, no can be support them all. They haven't fixed up their structures yet. Which is why, if we had a project management approach to our foreign policy formulation and implementation, this foreign policy approach will ensure that our bureaucracy is on their toes all the time, because there are MNEs in place to monitor him, not tick him off every month, every second month, periodically. Look him. So every end of the year, you're sending a report up to minister saying, "Lord, discuss something, and we didn't pass it because this meeting wasn't held." So there's regular reporting. So your question is very important, and it must be noted that MNEs must be now a foreign policy engagement currently now in a functional organization like our government departments, where because it's not done in a project management approach, then MNE is voluntary. Ilawokim MNE o time ilawokim MNE. Bayokim MNE anit lo one more activities. Bayu basim MNE anit lo one more activities. One more criterias. A project management a project management plan forces you to write up all those activities and their criteria and all the objectives with funding points. It's more accountable. It makes accountability easier too, because you just pick up the project management plan and check him. Okay, money away. You play use him, no got. Why you plan to use him? You mention in your activity and in your original plan, in your integration plan, in your communication plan, in your costing plan, in your schedule plan, in your stakeholder plan, that money will be used that way. How happen? Or who thought about this plan about money being used under that? And you plan include him and fund him. Now you plan to use him. Those things cannot happen in a functional organization like those in government, because they are not projectized organizations. They work on a business as usual case. So depending on the leader, if the leader is smart enough and holds periodic midterm reviews, and come up. But suppose no, then business as usual work that's all. Okay, Jonathan.
Thank you, Mr. It's well, you answered all of my questions. So only to thank you. I leave it to fellow colleagues to ask you questions.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Mr. Ako. Now you give virtual microphone to Crystal. Crystal, please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'll make comments followed by questions. And to start, these are based on your presentation last week 11 on the Manil Pato Foreign Policy Drive. And later I have 3 comments and questions for this lecture. So these first 2 comments and questions is based on one of the presentation slide last week on the MOU 1991 and its explanation on Chinese Taipei's participation in APEC meetings. So my comment, the MOU of 1991 formalized Chinese Taipei's participation in APEC but restricted its representation to economic ministers only, excluding foreign ministers or higher officials. And this was clearly meant to avoid recognition of Taiwan as a foreign state, aligning with China's one China policy. So my question following this comment is, how does this restriction reflect the broader geopolitical influence of China in multilateral forums like APEC? And I'll make the next comment and another question too, and you'll answer both of them. So my next comment is, I think it can be clearly seen that the way Chinese Taipei is treated reveals a power imbalance in APEC, where China's preference heavily shape participation rules. And this restricts equal participation by all economies, which contradicts APEC's founding spirits of inclusive economic cooperation. So my question following this is, does China's influence over APEC procedures compromise the organization's core principle of equal participation among member economies?
Crystal, I did not get your first question. Your voice was breaking.
My first question is, how does this restriction reflect the broader geopolitical influence of China in multilateral forums like APEC? regarding the 1991 MOU of 1991.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a very, very interesting question because it covers international relations, regional international relations, and our foreign policy initiatives also. Now, that 1991 MOU was built on the grounds that Taiwan or Chinese Taipei was also an economic powerhouse. And APEC members, other APEC members thought that it would be important to bring them in to stimulate the region's economic drive. Now, because of the political situation they were in, that it was one China policy, and then Taiwan would always be regarded as a province of China. The Chinese were approached by the other larger APEC member economies and also the APEC leaders, and this was the compromise they reached. They would allow that MOU would allow Chinese Taipei and Hong Kong to join APEC because of the economic. They were part of the Asian Tigers, remember? So they would join APEC to support the APEC's agenda, but they would always be represented by proxies. So the host will always send letters to the president and prime minister of Taiwan, foreign minister of Taiwan, and trade minister of Taiwan. Host sends letters to them, but they all by Kisima, but delegating Goran Lo, one of the other economic ministers, to attend on their behalf. So for the APEC leaders meeting, Chinese Taipei is always attended by a representative of the president or the prime minister. So that's the reason why that MOU was done. That MOU was done so that you will not mention Taiwan in any APEC language, even when you are talking and referring to, like if you're saying, thank you, Chair, I would like to make just support the comment made by the senior official of Taiwan. No, you don't say use it, the senior official of Chinese Taipei. Time we talk Taiwan, when you look across to about to the third seat in the row, you will see them liaison officers will be standing up and moving now, to go and try to correct that. So that's one of the reasons why that happened. And when we were hosting, I had an official from the Chinese embassy fronted up at my office and said, Lahui, we have an issue. Yes, sir. What's the issue? Well, as we are speaking, the Chinese Taipei senior official has set up office at the Stanley Hotel, and outside his hotel room, he's saying Embassy of Taiwan. Okay, so we had to send boys to go and investigate, and they came back and said, Mr. Ko, the thing is not there anymore. Okay, that's all right. So I had to inform our Chinese colleagues. They've taken it off. Thank you. Okay, and even when you were sending the invite letter to, like now, right now, the APEC host Korea is now facing an issue now, and all the APEC hosts face the issue around this time. Who to deliver the letter to the Chinese Taipei president and the foreign minister and the trade minister, especially the president, for his or her attendance at the APEC leaders meeting. So in our case, we had the online Jungo, or no, they came and said, Lahui, why don't you deliver the letter? I said, no, I'm very low in that. Yeah, you deliver the letter. So they would like to that letter to be delivered by a very low officer to the president so that it gives low status. And we told them, no, the letter will be delivered by our senior officer. So they were pushing for the late Sir Charles to deliver the letter. But in the end, now current Chief Secretary, Ambassador Ivan Pomali, delivered the letter to Chinese Taipei. And the Chinese, they came on the side and all complained, Somche go deliver. You're supposed to go deliver. I said, hey, Somche is at the right level. He set the middle level to deliver it to your boss. So talking dialogue. So they'll do that. There's always a political undercurrent there in place. So all hosts are now encountering that. So now we don't know for the Koreans who's going to deliver that letter to the Chinese president. If it was delivered by a foreign minister, big complaint come up lo PRC. That they'll come up with all the excuses we read in the papers all the time regarding them. Okay, so this was on that. Now, while explaining, I forgot the second question. The second question, please, Crystal. I have the answer here, but yeah.
Does China's influence over APEC procedures compromise the organization's core principle of equal participation among member economies?
No, God, it doesn't. It doesn't because this was one of the reasons why when APEC was being set up in 1989, the leaders said that no bigger economy should use its size to intimidate the smaller economies, which is why they took out the flags and from the meeting table. So you only have your board with your economist name listed on it. So time you talk, you lift it up and put it up, and then you'll be talking. One, and most importantly, is the consensus. Now, if China is putting forward a proposal at the APEC senior officials meeting or ministerial meeting, the US doesn't agree, the US will say in a nice way that it doesn't agree with the proposal, that there might be other options. So in that way, there's checks and balances. So what happens is that because of the checks and balance in place, you have to come and use your bilateral network to get support for your proposal. There's a reason why bilateral meetings are held regularly at the senior official level or ministerial level to get those support for a proposal you want to put forward. So like when back in 2013 in Bali, when we wanted Papua New Guinea's name to be listed on the 2013 Bali Leaders Declaration that we were going to host, we went out at all levels. Prime Minister went and met during his bilaterals. He talked about needing support for us to host APEC. Minister Maru and Minister Pato went around at their levels getting support. Ambassador Pomali went around at his level getting support. And for us too, we went around at our levels getting support. For our case, me and Mr. Maigu and a couple of others, our job was to visit all the bars and pubs to find out whether our APEC colleagues were there, to tell them, hey, listen, so and so. Of course, we went out on that mission sober, and by the end of the 3 or 4 hours, we came back drunk to report. We're visiting bars, and you can't just go in, look for people, and walk out. You have to hold a drink and look around, talk with them. They'll buy you a drink, you buy them a drink. So we had to visit about 7 or 8 or 9 bars, and we normally had our PM O'Neill normally had his bilateral briefing. Sorry, Ambassador Ila, who was looking after the officials, had his bilateral briefings normally at 11 p.m. So when he sent us out at 5 p.m., he said, Laui, you have to report here by 11 p.m. with good answers. So before we went out to the bus, we started texting our friends. Hey, where are you? I'm over here having a beer. Come and join me. So we would go to bar number 1, have 1 beer, convince them, argue with them, then go to bar number 2. So we did it at all levels. So by the time the leaders meeting declaration was held, to cut a long story short, PNG was not listed to host, but the wedding on that said that we know PNG, Chile, Malaysia, or Vietnam's intention to host. And it wasn't what we needed, what we wanted, but at least we had our name on the declaration already. So the following year in 2014 was a time when we went all out to start chairing meetings. Like I said about the ASEAN engagement, we went all out, got Clarence Hood to become the first chair of the investment expert group. We started putting in policy papers in place and showing the APEC process throughout the year that we can host. So when the 2014 leaders meeting happened in Beijing, and we went out again to a lobby for the sentence to be changed to PNG to host, that happened because we already had a track record in the past 12 months. That we did this, we did that, we did it. We hosted our first APEC ministerial meeting on forestry. We had 2 other working group meetings in place. So we had a track record in place. So the Chinese went ahead and supported everyone. So that's when PNG was listed to host. I think the declaration said that we welcome the host of these countries from 2018, 19, 20, 21, 20. So in that way, consensus disallows any big economy to push its weight around in the formal setting. But you can, they do that through peer pressure by holding bilateral meetings and pushing agendas. Now, because the bilateral meeting now, it's different. It's one-on-one now. So you carry him strongly, you go and you talk, think him side, you talk strong, you will get your idea across. Suppose not, but you talk yes, so now walk out. All right, Crystal, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Mr. Okon. Now to my other comment and question. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill's 2016 visit to Beijing and subsequent support for China's South Sea stance highlights PNG's shift towards aligning with Chinese interests. Now looking at it, China's strategic pressure and PNG's response to China has been increasing its diplomatic and economic influence across the Pacific, including pressuring Pacific Island nations like our nation to support its claims in the South China Sea. With that being said, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill's agreement in 2016 to back China's position was a significant shift, showing how diplomatic pressure can influence smaller states. So my question is, from your experience with APEC, what is your opinion on PNG's move? Did PNG support China more because of pressure from China, or was it part of PNG's own plan to build a closer relationship with China?
It was part of the second sentence, your second thought. It was part of our plan to build closer relations with China. Noting very well, remember, from 2013 to 2018, Papua New Guinea's foreign policy, regardless of what was written, was based on hosting APEC 2018. We wanted to show the world that we were open for business and we were genuine in our intention to host APEC, which was the reason why we brought in the World Bank, the IFC, all the head people came, Google, everyone, they all came to support that initiative. And PNG's Prime Minister's support to Xi Jinping that time was not only to prove that we were not just shooting off our mouth here and there, but it was to show that the situation was a domestic issue. The South China Sea is contested by 4 or 5 countries whose borders border that, and those 4 or 5 countries are all members of APEC. See, so we had to really toe a fine line. So even during the bilateral meetings with these countries, we assured them that this is your issue, and we do not, Papua New Guinea's foreign policy engagement does not impinge on other countries' sovereignty issues unless we are affected. So that's how it went, Mr.
Thank you. My last comment for week 11. Overall, the lecture from week 11 helped us understand and explore the strategic, political, and economic context that prompted the review under the O'Neill government. By the looks of it, Papua New Guinea's foreign policy is shaped by both strategic interests and external pressures. Like PNG support for China's South China Sea position in 2016, just before hosting the APEC, reveals how foreign policy decisions can be influenced by the promise of economic benefits, especially how powerful partners like, especially from powerful partners like China. At the same time, PNG's role as APEC host required it to follow strict international protocols such as the 1991 MOU, limiting China's pace participation, and this highlights how PNG must constantly balance its national interest, regional leadership goals, and expectations of greater powers. That's all for my comments and question for the last week. And moving on to today's lecture, I'll start with 3 comments followed by 3 questions. My first comment, I think the new normal can be seen as an opportunity and not a constraint, though the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the global supply chains and exposed the fragility of over-centralized growth models, yet it also opened the door for reshoring production, green recovery projects, and digital transformation. And PNG must embrace this shift and position itself as a viable, stable, and resource-rich economy ready for new investment. The foreign policy white paper must speak directly to global investors, showcasing PNG not only as a development partner but as a business destination. To my next comment, the scenarios listed in the slide on harnessing private sector in foreign policy present a blueprint for modernized and development-driven foreign policy in PNG. They highlight the urgency of shifting from a dependency to a strategic partnership, especially those that empower the private sector to become an engine of national transformation. So PNG can align its diplomatic agenda with economic growth priorities. My third comment, PNG's hosting of APEC Leaders Summit in 2018 was a landmark moment that showcased the country's ambition to participate meaningfully in global economic dialogue. However, the legacy of APEC has not been sustained in policy or infrastructure. A more visionary foreign policy could use that experience as a reference point to re-engage with APEC's core themes. And as a region's dynamic evolve, PNG should revisit its APEC commitments and transform them into long-term strategic policies. So to my first question, what lessons from PNG's experience hosting the APEC leaders meeting in 2018 can be applied to strengthen its international positioning in the post-COVID era?
The lessons we got out of hosting APEC 2018, including the years of planning into hosting that, were all portrayed last week when the people who led the PM's the people who led the PM's liaison officer team were all APEC led trained officers, and I hear comments saying that they fared very well, but while on the other side, those other departments who ran their own liaison work struggled. Okay, but the biggest lesson of all was the idea of writing policy documents for international engagements. That we have now. That idea we have. You have Dr. Francis Warlap Momi, Miss Deborah Sungi, there are others, Secretary Jacinta Warakai. They were all part of the APEC process, and they are now at that level where they can engage internationally with more substance than before. So those were the takeaways we had, and then not to not mention the security engagements of APEC 2018. Part of the build-up up to now, up to this at this juncture now on the Pukpuk Treaty, was the solidifying the PNGDF and IDF engagements during the security operations of APEC 2018, and together with the other economies. And then when you look at the logistics side of it, most of the logistics companies or the events companies, they build off APEC 2018 to be what they are now. So we can see that it did help the economy through that way. It can be argued that APEC 2018, the SMEs, and not all the SMEs were involved in the catering business or the supply chain of the APEC 2018. But again, it comes with accountability and governance and your ability to be able to play at that level. So I'll answer your question that way, Krista.
Thank you. To my second question, how can PNG's foreign policy actively promote its private sector abroad, particularly in sectors like agriculture and tourism?
Agriculture and tourism. Let's put focus on agriculture and tourism. Agriculture and tourism have international bodies. They have international forums to engage in. You have the FAO for Agriculture, Food and Agriculture Organization, and you have the World Tourism Organization, WTO or something. So those are their supreme international bodies, which the sectors sectors attend on a regular basis. Now, how the question to answer your question is this question. So how can we use PNG's national interest in pushing PNG's agenda in those two organizations? And it boils down again to those sectoral agencies now. Are you in tune to the well agenda of this organization? One, or on the flip side, are this agenda provided by these well organizations not in line with ours? If so, if they're not lining with ours, how did it happen? Didn't we speak out when this agenda came out or when the decision came out? Didn't we raise the flag and say, hold on, PNG does not support this because according to our MTDP4, it goes against our targets? Did we say that or in the passing look stuff while other economists ran their agendas to that? That was my reason when I said when we sit in bilateral meetings and the outcomes are when you are reporting, taking notes, take careful notes of those things. Because when an economist says that it's going to support you with agriculture extension officers or something, and then once you go to the FAO and they start speaking differently, you raise the flag and said, but we had our pilot, now you said this, and now you're changing your tone. So it comes down to the heads of those organizations. For instance, when leading up to APEC 2018, Roy Mumu of Transport, the previous head of the Climate Change Authority, Treasury, IPA, TPA, Customs, IRC. The officers who headed those departments and agencies were all regional focused. So their officers usually went ahead to write policy documents and floated them in those fora they were in. And it was from those policy documents that the Eracone statement was built up to, because they had a couple of years to build on those things and they contributed them. International organizations are not there for us to go and attend meetings, enjoy the privileges of flying an aeroplane and coming back. Like I mentioned earlier on, you are a public servant. You carry the hopes of all the population of this country. So when you go and attend, when you go to the FAO or go to the WTO or go to the wherever, you are carrying the hopes of your country with you. And then the hopes are listed in the MTBP4, which you Karimbo, or the foreign policy which you Karimbo. And when an agenda is mentioned then and it's not in line with these hopes of people, you put up the flag and say, no, I'm wrong. And you must be listed in the minutes that PNG did not support this idea, because so then people will know, okay, the M online also going to fight law mouse blaming. Many a times we have officers going and just sitting down, listening to that, and not raising a hand, and then coming back and complaining. But sorry, game over. Final Huta go finish winning grand final. How about you go complain? So that's how it is. Not only in the FAO, but in all the international organizations which we are a member of. We pay subscription fees also. Remember, we pay subscription fees to those international organizations to be a member of those bodies. So once you pay subscription fee, money wasted. We have to go and play. We must go and play, and we have to go and push our agenda there. And if we fail in pushing our agenda, and we come back and say we tried, but we cannot push it, we may try not play angle again. And to try another angle means going through your bilateral partners and visiting them. Okay, listen, maybe support you on this. So now we need your support on this. Next time we go to this meeting, please you put in flag and support me, because we're going to raise it again. And you come back and do your homework by revisiting all those bilateral partners and garnering support before you go back to the multilateral conference and push that same agenda again. Depending on cabinet. Suppose cabinet talk losing or losing, but cabinet talk no, go push him, go push it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ako. Thank you for the interesting answers, and thank you for sharing your thoughts, experience, and insightful lectures with us throughout this semester. We really appreciate it. Thank you. That's all from me.
All right, thank you, Crystal, and thank you to all the other attendees for taking the time to ask questions and the comments. We've learned from your comments as well, and we also thank Mr. Ako for his time and for his insight sharing his knowledge with us. And that brings us to the end of our session for today. And we have a Q&A session this Thursday from 6 to 8, and those of you who are on the list and did not have the opportunity to make your comments and ask your questions, you can do that this Thursday. And then Friday we have a guest lecture by Mr. Edau, Doveri Edau, on Israel and PNG bilateral relations. So that's what we will be doing this week for the rest of this week. And I once again thank Mr. Ako for his time and for sharing his knowledge with us.
Mr.
That's all. Yes,
Mr. Aguirre,
Ako.
just as this is the final lecture of the semester, I want to just say, convey my heartfelt appreciations to all of you for putting up with me ranting and raving and talking about all these issues, and also to thank you all for providing new ideas and thoughts, because I no one has all the correct answers, and as a team we are all building off from each other's strength. Now weakness blow me, strength blow you play it in balancing, weakness blow strength blow me balancing. So it's been a very good ride this 10 weeks, and I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for encouraging me to do more research on this particular topic, and watch news and watch news and read newspapers, check the LinkedIn pages on this particular topic, and we've all kept on our toes. And I want to just say that thank you very much, and I wish you all the best in your exams, and please study hard. The country needs new mind, our minds to go in. We are at a juncture now where something is happening in PNG now, and we need more minds in there to drive PNG's interest in all sectors. So please do what you can, and bring glory and honor to our Heavenly Father and Almighty God, and also to as appreciation to your parents and your guardians for being there. Thank you and all the best. God bless, and see you all at the Q&A on Thursday and Friday. Thank you, Mr. Aguirre. He's the man who's pushing this agenda. So with you all the way. Not with the Broncos, but Divine Word, with you all the way.
Everybody.
Okay.
You have
Bye.
a great day. See you on a Thursday.